what you want to, what you said you were when I met you. You've got a warm heart, you've got a beautiful brain.
It's nice to meet you both. So you're Janie and you're Rylie. Great. Well, I'm Amanda, and it's a pleasure to hear about your story. So I work as a journalist, and basically I write for a variety of different sites that I think will be very interested in hearing about your story. Basically a lot of different elements that we'd seek to cover about, what it was like supplementing with CBD oil in Delaware, what you went through, and I'm just really excited to learn more. So I'll just be taking some notes as we go through this, but no pressure, feel very comfortable. If there's anything you'd like to share or anything you seek to make sure people know, please let me know by all means. So. Okay, so whenever she's ready, I guess the first question for you though is, so in 2013, that's when Rylie was diagnosed with the aggressive giant cell granuloma.
Aggressive giant cell granuloma disease. So it mimics cancer extremely well, and it's treated as cancer in some ways. So it can be treated with chemo or resection. The main difference between aggressive giant cell granuloma and cancer is that it can't metastasize to like the brain or the liver, that type of thing. But it can spread and it can grow and it can reoccur. So it is it's still extremely serious, but it's not malignant in the way that it can metastasize to other serious organs.
Okay. And what led you to wanting to supplement with CBD? Because you were 7 around that time, right, Rylie? And so it was all up to your mom, essentially, to kind of figure out what needed to happen. And I'm sure that was an immense amount of pressure on you. But how did you hear about it? How did you learn about CBD oil as a potential therapy?
At first, I didn't know what it was, and I didn't even know what I was taking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I found out when I was in 3rd grade.
Yeah, because this all happened when she was in 2nd grade, and it was probably 3rd grade before we let her know what she was taking, because you live in fear of somebody finding out of what you're doing because it was illegal. Yeah. We were actually giving her CBD, THCA, and THC.
Okay.
So we're giving her the whole round
yeah.
of everything. So what led me to it is just that when she was originally diagnosed with a very aggressive stage 4 cancer. It was rhabdomyosarcoma, which is what this type of orphan disease or orphan tumor actually mimics.
Yeah.
And so at the stage that they thought it was very serious. They actually had her under anesthesia to put the port in. It was kind of like a last ditch effort of, we're gonna do our best. We're gonna try to save your child. We're gonna give her chemo. It's gonna start in 2 days. Everything was moving very fast, and so of course, as a mom, you're up all night trying to figure out how to save your child. And through that research, I met another mom whose child was diagnosed with the same thing, and so she had connected me to a support group of other moms who were using cannabis for their children with serious diseases and illnesses. And it wasn't just one type of disease or illness. It was a huge range of illnesses. And so through them, I was able to do a ton of research. And even when it came back that, she was actually in the middle of the court procedure when they halted it and said, something's just not right. We don't know what's going on here. This might not be the case that we think it is. It was such a rare type of tumor. This research hospital had never even seen this before. And it had taken up over half of her face. It had eaten away her palate, her sinus, her entire central of her face, the cheek, the maxilla, her teeth were falling out. Even the bottoms of her eye orbits had been eaten away. So it was really just disintegrating her entire face. That, so it was still serious, but we weren't in the fight with this malignant cancer at the, so it was still, it kind of, lessened the intensity, but yet we were still dealing with, we're still dealing with that this is going to disfigure our child, this is going to impact her life, and this is still very serious because we still have to remove it or else it is going to take her life. But we weren't pressed against the wall that, we have to do chemo, which is also very detrimental to some of your vital resources. But through that research, through that research, we found so many beneficial things about it that it could also help benign tumors. It could also help protect the body's cells, and it could also help with nerve damage. We knew that she was going to have to do, reconstructive surgery, and that there was a really high reoccurrence rate of this type of tumor. So when I went into this, having all this knowledge about what cannabis could possibly do, it was still a no-brainer for me. That we had nothing to lose by doing it. There was nothing negative that could happen to her besides the fact that it was illegal in our state.
Yep.
So that was really, when you're making your list of, positives and negatives, the only thing negative on it was it's illegal for her and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So that's it.
I write a lot about cannabis, actually, and that's one of the reasons we moved to Las Vegas, was to get more understanding about it, and the fact that there's now 100 peer-reviewed scientific studies that prove cannabis can help remedy cancer, a variety of them, and the fact that it's still outlawed for individuals such as yourself, and there's so many people just in the United States alone that could benefit from using it. So I imagine that was really, really tough. You said that right now you use CBD, THC, and THCA. Were you supplementing with all three when you first began, or was it just CBD?
We, 1 month after her surgery where they debulked as much tumor as they could.
Okay, 1 month. Yep.
Yeah, it was 1 month and a day. So we waited for a follow-up post-surgical scan to see, I wanted a comparison.
Yep.
So that was when we started her on, at the time, we started her only on CBD and THC because I didn't have access to THCA.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was what she was started on.
Okay.
In the very beginning.
Okay. Some people, and honestly, I would love to learn more about this from you too, because you are very well educated on the various forms of the cannabis. Why do you supplement with THCA in addition to THC and CBD, the main two components most people know about? But because this might be harder to come across from your research, the THCA.
Well, her surgery was very long. Her surgery was about 7 hours long. They literally had to do it very carefully not to injure more nerves. And so essentially what they were doing was removing a quarter of her face very intricately. When she came out of surgery, she had like a ton of bones. Yeah, she had her teeth were held in by stitches. There was no bone in here. And like when she drank water, her teeth like actually twisted and flopped around. And because they didn't expect them to leave, but they just didn't want to shock her, and they thought we would just let them die naturally. But so there was a lot of, if you had looked at her face, and we have CT scans of her face, I mean, it literally looks like a bomb went off, and there's like nothing there on this whole side of her face. So when we looked more and started learning more about the CBD and THC, and as I was using it, we started seeing that regeneration, and you expect a child to regenerate their bone, but the way that it was regenerating was like so fast that her doctors were even shocked and surprised. And that was, I call it a side effect, because we weren't giving it to her for that. And it was a wonderful side effect that was happening. One of the things that made us back down on the THC a little bit, though, was about 2 weeks after surgery, she started having these, we called them episodes because the doctors didn't know what to call them, where they looked like seizures, but we weren't quite sure. And it could be because she was on CBD and THC that it was helping her. But come to find out, they were seizures. And maybe something happened during her surgery. Her surgery was like over 7 hours long. She lost a lot of blood. Who knows? We don't know. But so we started kind of changing her regimen a little bit and experimenting, and that's when we started bringing in the THCA to replace that THC, because we still wanted all those benefits of the THC, but they seemed to be exacerbating the seizures a little bit, so we wanted to replace the benefits but not exacerbate the seizures, and that's when we jumped in with the THCA, and we started using the THC topically, rather, so it was using a different pathway.
Okay, perfect, understood, yeah. And how do you feel today, Rylie? How are you doing? I hear you're a classical piano student. What else keeps you occupied?
I like acting and singing. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I like medicine. It's helped a lot.
Good. Well, that's so great to hear. So, I would love to learn more about the litigation, the legalization that's kind of accompanied this journey. What have you faced legal-wise? Like, what are some of the hurdles that you personally had to confront with being able to ensure Rylie had this medicine?
So we went through a situation where Rylie started getting stable scans, and there was a lot of questions from doctors, like, about her scans because they looked so wonderful. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people couldn't figure out, like I said, we expect a child to have some bone regeneration, but for what she went through and what they removed and her not having to have the chemo, there are other children who had the same type of tumor as her. There's not many. It's a very extremely rare. But out of like the 5 that we know of, and there's 2 in Australia, there's 1 in England, and there is 1 here in the United States. All of them have had reoccurrences. Okay. And 3 of them have had chemo. She's the only one who's had cannabis. And she's the only one who this December, knock on wood, she's going to still be stable. Yeah. So there was a lot of questions from even, when we went to Johns Hopkins, like he just kept looking at her and looking at her records and saying, it's very hard to believe that the child that I'm reading about in these records is this child that is sitting in front of me, because you can't tell that this has happened to her. And he kept asking us, what are you giving her? What are you doing? So with that, and then with her, she had a lot of survivor's guilt, because there was a time here we were facing that, we might not have our daughter. And even with the right diagnosis with this type of tumor, it was still life-threatening, and it has like such a high reoccurrence rate. And because of how it's like located, you can't breathe and you lose your teeth. You lose all kinds of stuff. So, and it just tracks into the bottom of the eye orbits, and her eyes were like all disheveled and everything. So, not only is it very, it distorts your face and is very mutilating to your looks, but it's also life-threatening. So here we had her that had this beautiful outcome, and here she was in the hospital along with other kids who were dying. And so you have the survivor's guilt, and she doesn't understand, why can't they have my medicine? Like, she started calling it her my medicine. Why can't they have my medicine? So that's when, like in 3rd grade, we started explaining to her, oh, by the way, this medicine that you take is not considered medicine to other people, even though God gave it to us, and it's a plant and we should be able to take it. Like, you have to start going through that whole explanation, and she still doesn't, in a child's eyes, they still don't get it.
Yeah.
And so that's when we had to come out. Yeah, we invited a senator to come over to our house from our state that was actually campaigning against medical marijuana.
Really?
And we figured if he had voted no and had campaigned against medical marijuana, and we could get him to pay attention to what had happened to her, then maybe we could get everybody's attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so we invited him over, and I showed him all of her medical records and let him see like how it had changed her life for the better, and let him talk to her. And he talked to her, and she just told him, that she had straight A's, and that, at times when we had tried to wean her down off of the cannabis, how her grades had suffered because she was in so much pain and she couldn't eat. So, he started crying, and he said, I'm going to help you. And he's really been our champion ever since. And so we came out in the public, and that was when they created Rylie's Law, which allows medical cannabis. It's CBD, whole plant with THC in it, and THCA for children in our state that have, qualifying conditions. So,
is there any way to share the name of the senator? Would that be possible?
Senator Ernesto Lopez. Yeah, he's very proud of it now.
Great. Oh, that's so wonderful. That's incredible to hear. So Rylie saw, I was informed that you're trying to get autism to be covered by that as well. Is that true? Okay.
Yeah, we turned in a petition about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We turned in a petition. So we, a year after we passed Rylie's Law, Rylie was still having to walk off school property to take her medicine.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So we were able to change, if they called it the extension to Rylie's Law, which is called SB 181, where we're able to now, she can take her medicine and other children can take their medicine on school property.
Okay.
Submitted the petition to add pediatric autism.
Great. Well,
So
that's
it's for the adults, but not the children, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible that through your journey and the initiative you've taken to just ensure you keep your daughter alive. First of all, that's so commendable, and you both are so brave. But through your work, making it so other people have access to this as well, it's incredible. I just want to let you guys know that. And okay, so tell me a little bit more about Rylie's Foundation, Rylie Smile Foundation. Do you want to tell me more about that?
So when I was in 7th grade, my mom gave me an iPod, and it helped distract me from scary things. So when I left the hospital, I felt bad for the other kids who were stuck there doing nothing. So I wanted to give them iPods. So I made a foundation, and I think I've given out over 80 iPods so far.
That's incredible. That's really awesome. What have the other kids said to you about it? Has it helped them feel a bit braver as they go through it as well?
Yeah, because you can play games on it, and you can contact your family if they have
Well, that's so great. Well, congratulations. Is there anything else you would like to add about just cannabis as a medicine in general? What are your hopes with your activist efforts trying to ensure others have access to it? Are you what's the right word, satisfied with the progress you've made in Delaware, or do you want to keep working to get it legalized nationwide so that everywhere is medical? What are your thoughts on that?
Big question.
There's 5 questions in there. Sorry. I get really excited.
There's so much work to do. Well, we've also used, like she said, with her foundation, the iPod is the entryway to the kids and their families. And a lot of families have used the foundation to find us and get up with us. So it's kind of like we give the kid who's really sick an iPod, keep them occupied while we educate the parents. So we've used the foundation a lot for our advocacy work as well. And go ahead.
If the kids are too young, or if they can't have an iPod because they can't see or something like that, we help them financially.
That's so nice.
Yeah, so we've been able to use the foundation to further the advocacy work. Like she goes and she speaks at different events about just about her experience with cannabis in general. So it's kind of like let people, I think when people see a child and they see how it's affected and improved her life, it lets their guard down, because she has really like won over the veterans at our American Legion, and they've just really kind of enveloped her. And you know, she's Miss Poppy for the last 2 years. In fact, she's Delaware's Miss Poppy. She won Delaware's Miss Poppy. And we've had a ton of veterans that have come out to us and said that just like through her advocacy work, through her foundation, like, you know, because it's a 501c3, we can't like put our hands on cannabis and stuff like that and like promote marijuana, but we can advocate for laws and changes. So they have like come to us like crying and said, you know, last year I had a walker and this year I don't because of your daughter. And they've come out crying and hugging on her and stuff just because she's inspired them. And so that like just really pushes you further, you know, to want to do more. And so there's a lot of things that we still want to improve and do, like not only in our state but other states. Just in our state alone, like this coming legislation year, we plan on amending the limits of our CBD and THC for pediatrics, and we are advocating for transparency for third-party labs. Because currently, right now, the way our program is working, the patients they're not privy to the third-party labs. So like if you were to go to the dispensary and buy a product, if it's on the shelves, they say it's okay. But you don't have access to like what those labs actually said as far as the mold content, pesticide, terpenes, any of that. It's just whatever's written on the package, THC and CBD content pretty much. So for me, you know, I want to know the pinene and the limonene content, because I'm treating my daughter for seizures and things of that nature. Or I do a lot of consulting with families, and I'm telling them what to look for in labs, and they can't do that efficiently because they can't access these labs. And they don't even know whether these are, you know, sedating strains or whether these are stimulating strains that are being used because they don't have access to the profiles of the labs. So that's one thing that we're advocating for. We do education classes once a month, and we call it Canna Talk, where we bring in laboratories from around, and we bring in speakers and doctors to just educate the patients. And it's open to patients for free, and we're planning on doing like a little mini boot camp in the next couple of months where we teach them actually about testing to try to get them a little, I don't want to get them riled up, but I want them to understand why this is so important and why we need them to talk to the legislators. It shouldn't be just coming from me and maybe 3 other people in the district. It should be coming from all the patients. Like, we want to see those labs. So that's one thing. We've also, Riley's very modest, but she's also an owner of a brand in California. So I don't know if you've heard of
Oil brand.
an oil brand. You can tell about your brand.
Like oil, it's usually like really expensive and stuff, and a lot of it is expensive and it has like bad stuff like mold in it. We wanted to make an oil brand so like there would be good medicine, except it's like not so expensive.
Yeah. What's the name of your brand?
Rylie Sunshine Oil.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And we have 3 amazing doctors. We have that are on our advisory. We have Judy Mikovits, Frank Rossetti, and Dr. Calumet Alif. I can never pronounce Calumet Alif is his name.
I might follow up and get those written just so I can figure them out.
Oh my gosh, I always say we need to change your name. But they are wonderful advisors, and it's not just I'm not in there making the formulations. I will say to them, this has worked for. I will say I've consulted for this many families and this seems to work, and then they take that idea and run with it, and do their PhD doctorate stuff with it.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, they're really the people behind the scenes in charge, and Rylie's the driving force behind the brand, and she actually made the logo, and she tells us what target she wants us to hit. And I know that one of them is, bone regeneration because of what happened to her. And that hits like all generations. It hits, her generation. It hits my generation. It hits grandmom's generation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the demographic is pretty much 99% of the population in so many different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Even our next door neighbor was diagnosed with osteoporosis, which is, we felt so horrible. We're like, we were like happy to tell her that was one of our first and main targets. Yeah. And so we're excited for her. We're sad, but we're excited for her that we can actually help her. And so
absolutely, it's better to be able to offer at least some advice or some suggestion, or you guys have so much to offer in terms of education than nothing, and that's what you're making accessible. So incredible. Right. So your brand, Rylie Sunshine Oil, is that through Original Nectar, or is that its entirely own thing?
Yeah, so it's not Original Nectar. It's we're actually the owner of Original Nectar is one of our partners.
Okay, cool. Gotcha.
Yeah,
just trying to figure all that out.
Yes.
So
Barry and Felix are actually partners of ours. So it's the four of us, the gang.
Gotcha. Perfect. Well, I'm going to be interviewing them after you. So is there anything you would like to add about sort of that relationship, or how they're helping ensure you have the right types of medicine you need, or I guess as much as you'd like to talk about that, if any at all? Or
yeah, well, we met them 3 or 4 years ago. I didn't actually know Felix at the time, but we met them.
I didn't know any.
But now he's Uncle Barry, right? Yeah, so I met them 3 or 4 years ago, and Barry was that guy that I would call and say, I'd ask him all these math questions, because I was getting these fully extracted tubes of oil, which, he had extracted, and I would ask him how to mix them and stuff like that. Sometimes I'd get these complicated questions, and so he would help me with all that. And our relationship just grew. And so we have a huge bond and trust. And so it just happened about a year ago. We have the same visions of being able to, want to help other people live well. And so if we can prevent, diseases and illnesses, or if we can help people that have already been diagnosed with a disease or an illness, that's our goal. And our target is really pediatrics, because we've been in a situation where, we've pretty much had to decide what bills to pay, just to be able to afford her medicine. And then the whole consulting aspect of it, we want to be able to offer, consulting on a donation or free basis, just because I remember asking somebody to help me in the very, very beginning when I didn't know anything, asking somebody to help me, and they said, well, that'll be $200. And I thought, I can barely even afford her medicine. How can I pay you $200? And I remember hanging up and crying, because I thought, all I want to do is save my baby's life. How am I going to pay you $200? And so that's, some of those gaps is where we really want to fill those gaps with the Rylie Sunshine that should not even be there right now. This is, we really are at the beginning of this whole cannabis industry, and honestly, nobody knows anything. We should all be helping each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
I feel like there's an entire revolution basically going on with the healthcare system, because what's in place in the United States more than anything is a sick care system. I'm not saying doctors and allopathic medicine don't have a place, but they're better for emergency medicine. And when it comes to preventative medicine or reversing disease, there's a lot of holistic ways, even just through diet and lifestyle, and of course supplementation of CBD that can do so much. And we're just on the verge of kind of figuring this out, I think, as a society. So yeah, you're right. As many people that can come together and brainstorm and just put something new together that can help the majority rather than just a few is exactly what's needed. So,
and we're maybe this is going to be a fault of theirs, is that we're not a company that's competitive. We actually want to help companies, and we hope other companies can help us.
Yeah.
I don't know, we're like in a kumbaya.
Oh, I love it. That's how it has to be.
Yeah, and we've said this countless of times, like even our advisors and our scientists, they want to work for peanuts, and I've heard them even say to me, like when I've asked them, what do you want? And they said, just give us a voice, give us some advocacy outlets. Yeah. And that's all they're asking for. And so I know positively that we're aligned with like the right little group, and it feels perfect. And so I can't wait to see like what happens like once we get rolling with this.
Absolutely. And it'll get there for sure.
Yeah, and on our website, like we'll see one of my little niches, and maybe it's from all the class I've taken a ton of courses, and I have a son who's on the spectrum, and plus we also live in an area that's heavily populated with spectrum kids, and that helps. Okay. And I do a lot of consulting for other companies that for autism, ADD, and ADHD. But on our website, we have where you can actually go on to there, and you can either do a one-on-one appointment, and it'll ask you for like I think it's like a $20 donation, and it's to like support our fees for our website. But if you can't afford that, all you do is email us. So that's what we've kind of decided to do, because all these other companies will charge like $125, $75, and like that's where we just can't we can't see doing that to people. So we have the option of where you can get like a one-on-one for 45 minutes to an hour for the $20, and you can donate the $20, or if you can't afford that, then you just click on email and you get the help through email, the same help.
Okay.
So
what is your website? Can you share that with me?
It's Rylie's Sunshine, so RYLIES.
Okay.
And then sunshine.com.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Well, we'll definitely share that as well too, to make sure that we get. Because I mean, that's a invaluable resource. When people are struggling. First of all, with the mental and emotional burden that accompanies, receiving a diagnosis, and then the financial. So I'm sure many people will benefit from that. So.
Right. Yeah. And then to get our brand off, we recommend the best brands we know. We're not like telling people don't use any brand. We just recommend the best ones that we know of, and we use all of our advisors on there. You see all of us on their team.
Beautiful. That's so wonderful. Well, I think we've covered all of the main bases. Unless there's anything else you'd like to add, anything else? Feel pretty confident with all that's kind of been shared? Hopefully. I just want to affirm personally that I think what you guys are doing is incredible, and I support you 100%. I'm really excited to create an article that is seen by a lot of people to hopefully further your efforts and vice versa with them. And I just thank you for this collaboration. I'm really excited to share it.
Yeah, we're super excited now.
Okay.
Could still be what you want to, what you said you